So, ladies and gentlemen, how we doing tonight? Okay, that sounded like half a party, and I need a whole party. Let's see those signs. How we doing tonight? Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. If you would, please welcome the Reverend Freddie Hayes. So good, so good. We're so excited we can't even hide it because tonight the people are taking their power back. What they do. And the power of the people is always greater than the people who are the power. And they get the power from us. And so that's the case. We are gathered here tonight for this phenomenal that we call the magnetic, dynamic, charismatic, Bechtel Award is the greatest leaders of all time is Bechtel Award. And how appropriate that we are gathering on May 19th. May 19th, 100 years ago, Malcolm X was born. Malcolm X was born and he has been up for the legacy of Malcolm X. Over the last few years of Malcolm X, the Italian bullet, he was basically informing us of the need to organize, the need to strategize, the need for those who have been rendered marginalized to know that you still have power. I love this because one thing that was said about Malcolm X that can be said about Bechtel O'Rourke is that Malcolm X was an intentional listener. Please don't miss that. He was an intentional listener. How can you be an eloquent orator connecting the dots for the people so that they know they still have the power unless you are an intentional listener? I parked right there to say, we are here tonight because Bechtel O'Rourke, as eloquent as he is an intentional listener. He listens to people. He hears their hearts and their hurts. And so I'm grateful tonight to introduce to you one in the tradition of Malcolm X, who is an intentional listener, and as a consequence, he knows what it means to lead. I love this. I'll give it to you like this. I get this looking at Bechtel O'Rourke. Watch it. Number one, real leaders serve people. If you are going to lead, you have to serve people. And that's what Bechtel O'Rourke does. Bechtel O'Rourke is not some ambulance chaser who shows up and would make the evening news, but no, Bechtel O'Rourke, when the cameras are not there, He is listening to people because he understands that real leadership is not above the people, it serves the people. And so I introduce to you one who is a servant of the people. Wait, not only do real leaders serve the people, but watch this. This is good right here. Real leaders also strategize for power. That's what leaders do. They serve the people, but they strategize for power because they recognize again that the power of the people is always greater than the people in power. That is right. Don't be upset about who's in position, because I've discovered that every now and then there are those who have power who may not be in position. I got to help you because you didn't get your shout on it. Here it is. I hope you recognize that even though Abraham Lincoln was in position, it was William Lloyd Garrison and Frederick Douglass and Harriet Tubman and Sojourner Truth and Harriet Beecher Stowe. They had the power. Y'all listen, I gotta give you another one. Y'all do know that here it is on December 1st, 1955, the bus driver and the police officer, they were in position, but Rosa Parks had the power. You do recognize that. The governor of Alabama, George Wallace, he was in position, but Martin Luther King Jr., he had the power. You do know that Ronald Reagan was in position in California as governor, but it was the great activist there that had the power by the name of Cesar Chavez. I'm simply trying to say that just because you don't have the political position, it does not mean you don't have the power. Can I bring it up today and simply say that, Trump may be in position, but Beto O'Rourke has the power. Because the power of the people is greater than the people who are in power. And I say this as I get ready to bring him on. Know what's happening right now. So gets it. I got to help you. I, for years, could not understand, but I went to a circus, how someone can get in this arena with the king of the beast, the lion, and then basically hold the lion at bay with a stool. Watch this, a stool. The person would just hold up the stool. And I learned, here's what happens. They're able to do it because whenever the lion tamer would thrust the stool in the direction of the lion would see it, and as a consequence, it was distracted by all that was coming at it. I don't know about y'all, but every day we get notifications about this lion tamer that is trying to tame us by giving us all of this bad news. It's bad news. We have a country now that is engaging in human trafficking. I know they call it deportation. No, because deportation sends you back to your own country. Trafficking sends you, in a real sense, to places you don't even know about. And you get there and you've been trapped into slavery and inhumanity. This country is doing that right now under the leadership of his president. This state in which we live, sadly, is led by a governor who is determined to defund with education and so we have all of this stuff being pressed at us while meditate is dead. And you know I'm a preacher, so I hope you don't mind if I quote Jesus right now. Because Jesus in the judgment will say about this country, I was hungry and you couldn't stand. I was thirsty and you contaminated water for those who were poor. I was a stranger and you had the nerve to build your wall. I was in prison because of your prison industrial complex. America, you about to go to hell. And America's going to say, when did we do this? He's going to say, whenever you do it to the least of these, my sisters and brothers, you also doing it unto me. So the listening, the caring of us, when guess what? Here's what I discovered: the lion has the power. If the lion just recaptures his vision And tonight we have one who's come to this area to show us that we can recapture the vision. Because what do leaders do? They serve the people, they strategize for power, but then they see possibilities. I like that right there. They see what's possible in spite of the present predicament. And so I hope you don't mind. Now, if I present to some, introduce to others, he's incredible. He's phenomenal. He listens intentionally and speaks eloquently. He organizes the people to make America what America ought to become. Here he is. I'm talking about the incredible, the phenomenal, and gifted. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Can I hear it from each and every one of you for Dr. Freddie Haynes? Number one leader, a man who is the moment. We don't even have to go to Friendship West, he came to us. We will go to Friendship West again if people have us. Just amazing. And you know, for those of you who know Dr. Haynes, and you live in Dallas, or you live in this region, it's easy to take it for granted. You know, he's the air that you breathe, the water that you drink. But from our distance in El Paso, a 9-hour drive, muscle metals, depending on how fast you drive out here. When I talk to people in New York, in LA, in Miami, this guy is doing all of us so proud, not because we're Dallas, not because we're Texas, but as Americans and human beings. This is a leader. And thank you all for coming out on Monday. Yeah.
Thank you for inviting us.
Is this what you guys do Monday nights? It's not bad. I really mean this. Showing up right now is a real act of faith. It is incredibly powerful for each of us to see each of us, for all of us to know that none of us are alone in this. As Dr. Haynes said, those who are in these traditional positions of power and public trust, they want us to feel hopeless. They want us to lose the faith. They want us to give in, and they want us to give up. And we don't judge nor do we blame those who have made that decision for whatever reason. They just cannot take it anymore. They think that this is inevitable. Maybe they don't read the long view on American history 249 years into this project. Maybe this is just the end of the road. And look, and when we think about what's happening in the totality of it, we don't have time to go through every single thing that is happening within, to, and coming out of this country right now. But just for starters, the incitement to political violence in America, whether it was the mass shooting at the Walmart in El Paso in 2019, the insurrection attempt on January 6, 2021, or the President of the United States of America pardoning each and every single person who attempted to bring those police officers defending this citadel of our democracy to death. And we know that far too many of them took their own lives in the wake, in the aftermath of that. This turning our back on these alliances that have been so hard fought, so hard won, going 80 years back all across the globe, that have only made us stronger and better and richer and more successful as a country. And not just turning our back on those allies, but on human rights and on human suffering that's taking place across the world today. Complicit in it, in fact, In places like Ukraine, where we've switched sides from the democracy to the tyrant, that tyrant who's sending in missiles and drones that are attacking civilians and killing innocent people on buses and civilian centers like Kyiv. And something that's hard for us to talk about because it divides so many communities. But right now in the Middle East, our hearts go out to those families who have hostages, brothers, sons, daughters, mothers who are still being held captive by a terrorist organization. And our hearts also go out to the Gazans, the Palestinians who are being killed by the terrorists. And we are sending weapons. And we are not using the unique power that the United States has right now to stop that violence, to stop that bloodshed, and to save those lives. The attacks on law firms that have the audacity to challenge this administration, on universities, on students, especially international students, exercising their First Amendment right to free speech, and in the country that should be governed by the Constitution. The rollback of voting rights that countless people, including from Dallas, were willing to give their lives to be able to earn not just for themselves, but for the rest of us. The rollback of other basic freedoms, the most obscene abortion ban in America that's costing the lives of Texas women right here in this state. Undermining the rule of law, our Constitution. Again, we could go on all night. They want us to give in. They want us to give up. They want us to feel hopeless. Part of the reason that we're holding these town hall meetings all across the state and across the country for that matter right now is to bring us together in common cause and in hope. And let me begin by saying this. If you voted for Donald Trump in 2024, we are so glad that you're with us here tonight. You're welcome. If you voted for you're welcome to vote. You can vote at all. Because you couldn't vote, or you just didn't like the choices, or you just didn't get around to it, or you happen to live in the most voter-suppressive state in the union. Right. You are in the right place right now. We are going to be in this one together. And to build on what Dr. Haynes said, there's this great speech that Abraham Lincoln gives in 1858. I can identify and sympathize with the guy, ex-congressman, running for Senate, loses that race. Right? And he's talking about the nature of power in America. And he's talking about the power of the presidency, the power of the courts, the power of the legislatures. We can add to that the power of the oligarchs who have concentrated all of the economic power in this country in their hands, or the cultural power in the hands of these billionaire masters of algorithm and influence on these social media platforms. Who are we? What is in our hands that compares to all of that? Well, Lincoln in 1858, another very divided, polarized, fraught moment, pregnant with possibility and promise, but also danger and strife and death. Imagine the hundreds of thousands of lives that would be lost over the coming decade to answer the question whether one American could own the life of another. And anticipating that, Lincoln says, against all that power in these traditional centers, is the power of all of us. And in his words, he says, public sentiment is everything. With it, nothing can fail. Without it, nothing can succeed. What he is talking about is our power individually and personally, but more importantly, together, to push this country politically in these moments of truth. Dr. Haynes cited a few of those earlier. I'd add one to the long list that he gave us. After civil rights is passed, thanks to the first president from the state of Texas, Lyndon Baines Johnson, using all the political capital he had at his disposal to get civil rights done, ending nearly 90 years of Jim Crow and segregation and the worst darkness in American history since the era of slavery. In the wake of that, Dr. King, fresh from receiving the Nobel Peace Prize in Sweden, is there within the Oval Office of the White House. Mr. President, he says, we cannot thank you enough. In fact, this country will owe you forever a debt of gratitude that we'll never be able to fully repay. And Johnson said him. And then King says, but now, Mr. President, we'd like to vote. You go to a community like Selma, Alabama.
The majority of the population there will be black. We challenge you, Mr. President, to find a single black voter on the rolls. They could have said the same thing about Dallas, Texas, or Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Do you pick a city in the states of the former Confederacy in 1964 when they're having this conversation, and you'll be hard-pressed to find a black voter on the rolls. And if there's a black voter on the rolls, taking their own life in their own hands to exercise that fundamental constitutional right and actually cast that ballot. And what is Johnson, the most powerful man by any conventional measure? What does he say to Dr. King? He says, you know what? I used it all up on civil rights. All that political capital is spent. He said, Dr. King, I'm sorry, I just don't have the power. And as they leave, a dejected Young turns to King and says, well, what do we do now? And King says, we go out there and we get this guy some power.
Right.
When we have days and weeks and months, everyday Americans, everyday Texans, like all of us who are here right now, we took to the State House steps. We lit up the switchboard at the Capitol. We wrote to the president. We protested. We marched. We sat in. We did everything we could think to do, trying to break through. Until months later, on the 7th of March, 1965, one of us did. 24 years old, John Lewis, with 600 other marchers, in Edmonton in Selma, Alabama, the very city King cited in that meeting with Johnson. And for having the courage of his convictions, he nearly loses his life in the process. But thank God the press, not the enemy of the people, but the best defenders of this democracy, if you ask me, there's input and there's images and that film across the country, around the world. It is so galvanizing. It's such a powerful catalyst that President Johnson, within 8 days, lightning speed in American politics, is able to convene a joint session of the House and the Senate. He finally has the power that he had been lacking, and he says to them, look, this guy John Lewis, he may be 24 years old. He may be black in a country where blacks do not have power, and certainly not political power. But I put him in the pantheon of great American heroes who made this country the exception on the continent. And here's Garland. He says, as it was at Lexington, Concord, as it was 100 years ago at that courthouse in Appomattox, and I've always thought he should have added, as it was on those beaches in June of '44, when brave Americans from Dallas willingly gave their lives to fight off fascism abroad, to defend democracy here at home. So it is now in Selma that our fellow Americans are willing to pay the ultimate price for us to fulfill our promise and realize our potential as a country. And you, the members of the House and the Senate, you have the power to confer. All they ask is the right to vote. That's summer. Johnson's able to sign the Voting Rights Act of 1965 into law, creating, for the first time in American history, something approaching a real democracy. Well, there's millions landing on those beaches in Normandy, and I think there's something like 9,325 white crosses. Every single one of them was one of us back in 1944, who willingly signed that blank check and gave their lives for us to be here today in 2025. All of them, and all of their service, and their struggle, and their sacrifice has been passed down to us. And the question for you and for me is, are we the worthy heirs of what we have been given by those who preceded us? The generation of 1776, 1865, 1944, 1965, and here we are today, the year of our Lord, 60 years later, 2025. And will we, in the words of Abraham Lincoln, nobly save or meanly lose the last best hope of earth? No pressure, Garland, Texas. But this one is on us. There is no one that rides the rest. There's no Supreme Court that is going to decide in our favor.
There is no competition to show acting right now against the President of the United States of America. There's no state legislature in the state of Texas that is going to find the moral, real power to do the right thing at this moment of truth. It is, as Dr. Haynes said, the power of the people. As Abraham Lincoln said, public sentiment. That as we meet here tonight, we begin to shape and to push and to help those who are in these positions right now who have the power to do the right thing, the real power and the push to get it done. So what I hope we do over the course of tonight's conversation is listen to one another about what we're feeling, what we're hearing, what we're thinking, and most importantly, what we're willing to do. Yeah. My fear is that if we wait until 2026, or God forbid, 2028, this thing may well be over. And we do not want to be the generation, 249 years into this thing, that lost it, that screwed up. I don't think we're going to be. I was asking Dr. Haynes, we were speaking ahead of time, he's traveling the country, he's everywhere, he was just in Louisiana. Before that, he was on the East Coast, before that, the West Coast. How are you feeling right now? And he said, I feel hopeful. People are stepping up, they're standing up to be counted, including in the places that have been told that they don't have it. I was in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. President Trump had imposed himself on the University of Alabama graduation. He invited himself to be the commencement speaker. Typical Trump, he's going to outshine and overshadow their celebration, their achievement, all of their hard work. And so the students reached out to me. Now, the DNC did not tell them to do this. No member of Congress, the United States Senate said, here are your orders, students, go out and invite vets or work. The last one, like number 700, but I said, and I got on a plane from El Paso to Alabama. They don't know that they're not supposed to matter. They don't know that they're a so-called red. They don't know that no one's going to listen to their voice. And you know what? 1,500 people showed up in that park in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. And they came together. And as I'm giving this speech and I get off and I go stage right, this woman comes up to me and she said, I love that you mentioned John Lewis. I love that you drew upon this Alabama history. I was 15 years old, marching with John Lewis across the Evan High School. Man, you go away. This is where we're doing much stronger stuff than Trump is anticipating right now. He thinks this thing is he's already running for his third term, right? You're already fitting him for the crown, sizing him for the throne. We, the people, have a say in this. Last thing, and again, not everyone here is a Democrat. That is by design. We reached out to Republican clubs, Democratic clubs, independents, everyone in between. But within my party, the Democratic Party, there is this hair pulling and teeth gnashing and consternation over what the message is and where we need to be right now. And some are saying, well, we need to be more centrist and we need to be more moderate. Others say we need to be more progressive and more liberal, and we need to be bolder. And folks are in different places along the spectrum. I really wonder if that is not, in fact, a false choice, and perhaps even the wrong question. What if the question right now, not just for the Democratic Party, but for the American people, is, are you going to surrender or are you going to fight? So if I ask you here tonight, are you going to surrender or are you going to fight? What do you say? That's the way I feel. And so as I come to a close, and Doreen Patel, who's back here in the striped shirt, raise her hand, Doreen. She's got the microphone and she's going to bring it to you. If you have a question, we're going to get as many voices in this. But as we come to a close, and we've just committed to one another, we said it out loud that we are going to fight. Let's make sure that we do this together, right? And no one is too Republican. No one is too much of a former Trump voter. No one's too Democrat. No one's too much of a former Kamala voter to be in this coalition. We are a united front. We're going to fight together for the most important thing right now, and that is the future of our country here.
I want to thank Board Member Freddie Hayes, Carl Coleman, and also the Democrats who helped organize this, and everyone who came out. Doreen Patel's got this little microphone. If you raise your hand, she'll bring it to you. We'll get as many people in this. You don't have to agree with me. You can criticize, you can ask a question, you can say something uncomfortable. We just ask everybody be civil, be cool with one another, and then we're going to get through this, right? That's for us today, for us as a country. All right, Doreen.
I have my first question over here. Hi, so I'm 17, I'll be 18 by the next midterm, and I was just wondering, as a young person looking to get engaged in politics, what can I do now to make a difference going forward?
The fact that you're 17, not old enough to vote, and you're here tonight. Plenty of groups to volunteer with, which I would recommend. We have a group called Powered by People, and we are posting up where young people are. College campuses, community college campuses, bars, cafes, wherever folks are hanging out. And our volunteers are trained volunteer deputy registrars, which means they're legally able to register a voter in Dallas County. The other thing that we do is after we register that voter, we ask them if we can have their cell phone number. We stay in touch with that voter, and 30 days after we register them, we send them a text, hey, did your voter registration card come in the mail? If the answer is no, we follow up with the Secretary of State's website to see if we can confirm that voter there. If we need to call them, we do. When it gets closer to election day, here's the form of voter ID that you will need to bring. Here's your nearest early voting location. And because we are a partisan organization, we're also able to say, here are the candidates who believe that a woman should be able to make her own decisions about her own body. Here are the candidates who want to boost her own bodies, fight climate change before it's late. You name it, we will connect you with that voter. If you would like to volunteer with us, we would love to have you. And we've got folks who are wearing these high visibility yellow vests all around. They have clipboards, they will sign you up. If you miss them, you can go to poweredxpeople.org. So volunteer with us, and that's so you don't have to wait till 2026, which is also important, and we're glad you're going to be voting. But let's all agree that we're going to get to work now. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it.
Okay, I have a general observation. The Democratic Party is very bad at messaging, we all know that. But what I don't hear is strategy right now. Yes, we are all fired up to fight back. What's the plan? Okay? I have a suggestion.
Yeah.
Use the laws that they're passing against them. Okay? The judge in Milwaukee, who is being charged for obstruction, is now using the Supreme Court's ruling of immunity against them. Trump just passed a law today about bullying online. How many times has that idiot criticized people? The next time he says something online, or anyone in his administration, everybody sue him. Start fighting back, not just having town halls, but actually start doing something that puts them back on their heels.
Love it. Thank you. I like this. So let's use whatever they're doing in that energy back against them as well. And then for our part, again, not everyone a Democrat, okay? But for the Democratic Party, what I witnessed in 2024 was a party that raised and spent, I don't know how many hundreds of millions of dollars, more than $1 billion, about close to zero of it in the state of Texas. I don't know if we matter or not. I think the 30 million people who live here do, and are really representation of the population. But almost every penny, so the gentleman's point about strategy, went into 7 so-called battleground states, and those folks are important as well. But here's the truth and the math that makes the case for Texas and the long-term strategy that I think we should employ. 2030, which will be upon us before we know it, this country will conduct another census. What they will find is that every one of those battleground states lost population, And that population flowed to places like Texas. Come 2032, 2 presidential elections away, we will have 44 electoral college votes. So the Democratic nominee in that year can win every single one of the so-called blue wall battleground states. But if she or he does not win the state of Texas, there is no ticket to the White House. If we start working on Texas in 2032 or 2031 or 2030, it is too late. We have to send a message to the rest of the country that this state is 44 electoral college votes matter. And what the first order is the date of 2025 to live in this election. And just imagine this. Just imagine this. You're going to get really excited. What it would feel like when on election night, for the first time since the year of our Lord, 1976, they called Texas for the Democratic nominee. So folks are waving at me, but Doreen Patel in a striped shirt has the other microphone.
Yeah, so this is gonna be our next question.
Hi there, I'm so glad to be here. My name is Kendall. I'm a local volunteer for our local chapter of 5051 DFW. Thank you. So I have a question. We talked a little bit just now about voting in Texas, and it's just so clear that there was an old study floating around, something like 47% of the votes of the population are not factored into the policy that happens at the federal level, and we can already see the wheels turning on how that's possible, because have any of y'all heard of the Tarrant County redistricting that they're trying to do? Yeah, so they're basically shaving off black voters from precinct 2 and trying to put precinct 1 and dilute the black vote, and Democrats are trying to stop it, and that's what's going on right now. And I just wanted to ask if you had any advice for people like me, people like all of us, members of the working class, who are here to engage in hyper-local resistance in an effective way against the regime.
Thank you. So we just stay there, because I've got a question for you. I'll give you a general answer, but you're doing the work. And so would you help us in answering at least a specific part of your question? When is your next organizing meeting? How do those of us who either live in Tarrant County or have friends or family get the word out for them to join you at that? How do we have your back in this?
Thank you so much for asking. So 5051, we're a completely grassroots organization. We have a website up, 5051texas.com, and if you sign up, we have an email list, and that's how you can stay in contact with the messages we're putting out and our calls to action. So I want to thank everybody if you end up joining us.
That's 5051.
5051, so 50501texas.com.
Okay, so if you're interested in helping out, I mean, redistricting is happening in Tarrant County. This is what I'm talking about, not waiting until 2026, not waiting until the next election. There's work to be done right now. Let me tell you all why this has to happen. And again, Dr. Haynes will be building upon your introductory remarks. You know, I just gave you this beautiful, wonderful story about American history, the power of people giving that to President Johnson, signing the Voting Rights Act of 1965. You know that was reauthorized in 1975. And it was reauthorized and expanded to allow for language minorities. People who didn't speak English, couldn't read the ballot, but were US citizens. They were picking our food out of the ground so it could be on our plates. They were now included in the reauthorization in 1975. It's reauthorized in the 80s, in the 90s, in the early 2000s. And in 2013, there is a Supreme Court decision that many of you are familiar with called Shelby versus Holder. And the Roberts majority in that decision, in their infinite wisdom, decided that we no longer needed the Voting Rights Act anymore. We're done with the power held by those in positions of public trust who use it to stay in power at the expense of those who are conventionally powerless. We don't have to worry about Black and brown communities being disenfranchised. We just don't have racism in America anymore. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, one of the justices, in her scathing dissent, said that is like going out in the rainstorm and using your umbrella, which keeps you dry from 1965 all the way to 2013. And you know it's still raining because it's kept you dry. Your logic is that it's time for you to put it away. Well, since that decision, no state has gotten soaked harder than Texas. Within minutes of that decision, we imposed the most onerous voter ID law. It means that you can use your license to buy a firearm in Texas to prove who you are at the polling place, but you cannot use your student ID at the University of Texas at Dallas to do the same. Texas closes down 750 polling places across the state. That's twice the number of the next closest state. Guess what? Every single one of them is a fast-growing black or brown neighborhood. When you see a line 8 hours long outside of TSU in Houston, Texas, it's not just that people are fired up to vote. Thank God they're waiting 8 hours to do that. It's because the other polling places have been closed down, and that indignity has been upon them. When you see this gerrymandering that you're describing, where you're cynically manipulating voters based on the color of their skin, a racial gerrymandering, which takes place at the congressional level, all the way down to the county commissioner's court level, that is happening because we no longer have the protection of the VRA. What's the lesson I take from that? No victory, no matter how just, no matter how hard won, is ever final. We have to continue to fight day in and day out. So when we win these elections in 2026, the job is not over. We win in 2028, we have to stay under, and we've got to have your back right now. So we're all going to go to 5051texas.com, make sure to sign up, get the alerts, and show up for the next meeting. Thank you for being here.
Okay, this is gonna be our last question for tonight.
We're going to try to get a few more, and I'll be quicker in my answers.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, I have a question. Are you going to face Governor Rabbit again? And if you, what do you think's going to happen?
Great question. Good to see you again. The question about running for office, and you all know that I'm a sucker for this stuff, right? I have been running, sometimes winning political campaigns since 2005, running for city council, running for Congress, running for re-election to Congress, and it's something that didn't go so well, right? But what I've learned from those races, this is one of the things, just a core conviction of mine, is it's so incredibly important when we try, even if the odds are not in our favor. That race against Ted Cruz, that so many of you helped us out with in 2018, but though we didn't win this movement that all of us created together, we helped propel 12 insurgent Democrats who defeated 12 incumbent Republicans in the state house. You all helped this guy named Colin Allred defeat an entrenched incumbent in Texas. In Houston, Texas, the most diverse city in America, 17 black women won the election to judicial positions in 2018. So we may not have won at the top of the ticket, but we still won and transformed the state in the process. So I think about that outcome when I consider your question. But here's the thing for me. If you're asking me if I'm personally going to run, I just want to make sure that whatever I do is helpful and useful and is the best use of what I can contribute. If that is being a candidate, you know that I'm not afraid of it, right? You know that I will do it. If it is supporting somebody else who's a candidate, you know that I will do that as well. If it is continuing to lead, powered by people, these extraordinary volunteers who are registering tens of thousands of voters every year, and that's how we contribute, I will do that as well. But my message to you is that each of us has to do all we can with what we have, where we all have a talent to bring to this party, and we're all going to do that. So we'll see on the decision to run down the road, but for right now, let's just continue to stay after it, be there for one another, and show up like you're showing up here tonight. Thank you for coming. I appreciate it.
I don't know, I don't know if you remember me, the last time I met you was when the hospital social worker and nurse were killed, and I asked you about that over at Eastville College. Thank you for coming tonight and doing everything you can do. I am a veteran, and I'm now a senior citizen on Social Security, and my question to you is, Greg Abbott had a surplus for property taxes that he said he was going to reduce for us. Is that maybe why my mortgages went up $80 a month? I want to know what happened to all that money.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for serving.
And I want you mentioned social security cuts.
The VA, they're gonna knock out 83,000 positions at the VA. Most of those are occupied by veterans right now. And then you mentioned your property tax bill. This voucher scheme that Dr. Hayes referred to at the outset, which is that you're paying into the state right now, and take it from the public local schools that your kids are going to, and send it to families, most of whom are already sending their kids to private schools, and subsidize their education. The promise was somehow they were also going to fund, that they were also going to fund public education. We have one of the lowest levels of public funding for schools in America. School teachers in Texas, on average, are working 2 or 3 jobs to make ends meet. Retired teachers went 20 years without a cost of living adjustment. And because they have not stepped up with this mounting and surplus that they did not create, but came from all of us and success that we produced, because they're not doing that, the real property tax bill is going to go up. The largest taxing entity in almost every political jurisdiction is the school district. And as we continue to cut state funds, and now the president is cutting Title I and the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act funds from these schools, you are the person who's going to be asked to hold the bag at the end of the day. If you do not like this, and I know you don't, it is time that we go to our school board meetings, speak at the call of the public, make sure those trustees know how we feel. And by the way, congratulations on how you did the school board and municipal elections. Congratulations to all absolutely wonderful. And you are. It means going to, if you can make the trip down to Austin, Texas, while this legislature is still in session, it means talking to your representative, even if he or she doesn't agree with you on these things. As someone who was once in one of those positions, that pressure really works. When you show up, people really listen. If you were to administer a truth serum to anyone in elected office and you would ask them their number one priority, it's not education, it's not taxes, it is securing their own reelection. Right. Making them know that what they're doing is unpopular. And finally, looking out for you, the taxpayer and the veteran and the person who's paid into Social Security every working day of your life. I guarantee you they're going to fear you more than they fear Donald Trump or Greg Abbott. And we got to show up and make them feel that. Thank you for being here.
My name is Connie Ramos Kaidi. I live here in Garland. I've lived here for over 40 years. I just ran for city council. Actually, I ran for mayor of Garland. And I was very disappointed that we have a population of 263,000 people living in Garland and less than 10,000 people went out to vote. So my question to everybody in here is, what is our strategy going to be? We can go out and we can register 1 million people, but if we cannot get the people to come out to the polls, how are we going to get represented? How are we going to change it? So we can have representation in all cities. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm going to speak that. Connie's absolutely right. In these municipal and school board elections across the state of Texas, the peak turnout's at 12%, 10%, 5%, 3% in some of these communities. It is the minority of the minority of the minority that is actually voting and deciding who holds the power. The biggest power, city budgets, county budgets, school district budgets, all being decided by 3% of the population. Part of what we're trying to do in Power by People, I mentioned that we're registering people to vote. We get their cell phone numbers, we stay in touch with them. We make them aware not just of the big November elections, not just in Democratic and Republican primaries in March, but these municipal elections that take place in May. Listen, the only moment right now for anything government against someone like Donald Trump or Greg Abbott is the city council member, the school board trustee, the county commissioner, the county judge. I mean, can we hear it from Clay Jenkins? Who's doing a great job? People get behind us. If we're not voting, if we're not mobilized, We're not going to be that bulwark and that defense against Trump right now. 2026 is great, but something big just happened in 2025, including right here in Garland, Texas. So again, whether it's powered by people, whether it's the Dallas County Democratic Party, whether it's just talking to your friends and neighbors, classmates, and colleagues, we got to make sure everyone is aware. There is no act right now too small to make a difference, including voting in May. So thank you, Connie, for saying that. All right, Mr. Reedy.
Next question over here.
Hi, my name is Isaiah Contreras. I'm a rural Democrat and a member of the LGBT community. And I may not be trans, but I am a proud ally of the trans community. One, genocides don't start with gas chambers and concentration camps. What is the Democratic Party going to do to protect trans people? Because as of late, it feels like they're abandoning them, and before it's too late, we know what's going to happen.
Thank you for answering. Hey, this is something each of us can do, because this is a real test, a real trial for us as a country, and for each of us personally. Why is Trump? Why is Apple? Why are they picking on the people that they're picking on right now? The bet that they're making is that you don't want to stand next to that trans person. That trans person is politically unpopular right now. You see National Democrats running away from them right now, throwing them under the bus. They represent, I don't know how big a part of the population. I mean, they're less than the number of people that vote in school board elections, okay? Just to give us a benchmark. How many of them are playing intercollegiate sports or middle school soccer right now? I've got 3 kids in the public schools. I want to make you more afraid of that than anything else. Every single ad they ran in 2024 was about trans people coming to get you. How many of you been gotten by a trans person? Taking a call right now. Here's another thing they try to do. You know what? We're going to invoke a law passed in 1798. It's only ever been used in War in 1812, World War I, World War II. When we used the Alien Enemies Act in World War II, we used it to round up Japanese nationals and Japanese Americans and put them in internment camps, or just deport them all together, or the kind of human trafficking that the Reverend just talked about earlier. That is being invoked right now to deport immigrants and their U.S. citizen children with cancer without medication, stage 4 cancer, by the way. Not to the country from which they came, but very often to the largest prison on the planet that is known for torture, brutality, and suffering. Everyone goes in, and not a single person ever comes out. These are life sentences for doing what? We have no idea, because there's been no due process, constitutional protections, no ability to know their names, the crimes that they allegedly committed, or for them to be able to mount a defense. What is the bet that they're making? Well, you're not going to want to stand next to that guy who has tattoos on his neck, who's been accused of being a terrorist or a thug or a gangbanger. So you're just going to be quiet while we put him on a plane and send him to El Salvador. You all know the poem that arose from the Holocaust, right? And first they came from the Marxists. I wasn't a Marxist, so I didn't say anything. Then they came from the trade unions. I'm not a trade union member, so I didn't say anything. Then they came for the Jews. I'm not Jewish, so I didn't say anything. Then they came for me, and there was nobody left to say a thing. That is where we are right now, and your point is excellent. The government spoke with the end of the year, at the beginning. This is what I said earlier, this is on all of us. Those trans people in your school, in your workplace, in this audience right now, make them know that you are on their side. Stand with them, literally, physically. That immigrant, I was talking to a school dinner that was sitting behind as we were coming in, and you were talking about something that we've seen in El Paso, which is that, kids who come from mixed immigration status families have stopped going to school. They're so afraid that when mom or dad drops them off, mom or dad is going to El Salvador, which you told. And the kid might be a U.S. citizen kid and may go to El Salvador as well. Do you find that kid in your classroom? Do you find that kid in your neighborhood? Do you find their parents and you say, what can I do to help you right now? I literally, physically am going to stand with you. If we do not do that, If we don't hang together, we are going to swing alone.
Right.
And this guy is deadly serious about it. So let's make that commitment. We're going to be there for each and every single one of us. Especially for my family, especially for the day that's happening right now, because we really need
Ben, this is your last question for tonight.
Okay.
Hi, Dana. I just wanted to kind of piggyback on Tony. All these people that are here, Beto was so inspiring, and he turned out a lot of votes. But everyone here needs to get involved in some way. There's Garland area Democrats, Dallas County Democratic Club, I mean, the organization, our county chair was here a while ago. And we have Preston Hollow, you have Richardson area Democrats, but Holland County. But to get the vote out, people walk precincts. And it's a great way to meet your neighbors. It's a great way to see different neighborhoods you never knew existed. But that's what it takes. And it maybe you don't want to go door to door, maybe you want to write postcards. It takes everyone. So this voting is great, but to overcome what we're up against at this point, it is going to take more than voting. It takes becoming a BDR, and you can register people to be voters. But all of those little incremental things happen, and it takes, you know, you go to organizations, it's the same volunteers. We need more. We need more volunteers to make phone calls, to write postcards, to walk neighborhoods. But that's what it takes. And it also gets you involved and giving them the feeling that you are part of the solution.
I love that. Thank you. Thank you for saying that. I think what we need to I mentioned it earlier, if you don't want to wait till 2026, if you want to get to work right now because you understand how dire the situation is, how close we are to the precipice, how late the hour, these powered by people volunteers in young investors signing up, we will train you this week. If you don't have time this week, we'll train you next week. We will deploy you, we will get you out in front of people to register to vote and bring them onto the rolls. And this stuff works. So if you have a neighbor or a friend who says, hey, will you join me at a protest on this street corner? Will you come out to this town hall meeting? Will you go to this march with me, this rally? You just say yes, whether there's 3 people or 300. And then last thing, to your excellent point on going door to door. See you Sunday. I promise you, this stuff works. The only reason I'm here is because it works. When I first ran for Congress against an 8-term incumbent, outspent 5-1, we made a virtue of necessity, we knocked on doors. You know, if we didn't have the money to reach them through the mail or TV, we were going to reach them in person every single day, 100 to 120 doors. Towards the end of the campaign, it was one Thursday, I remember well, I knocked on this woman's door, she answered, she invited me in, poured me a cup of coffee, told me about her daughter who's a school teacher and how hard she struggles. Her grandson was a Marine, how proud she was of him. We talked for 30 minutes, and it really didn't talk politics or partisanship or policy or any of that stuff, just about her family. That next Monday, I go into a diner, and this young man stops me and says, are you Beto O'Rourke? I am. Well, you knocked on my grandmother's door last Thursday. And you probably don't know this, but every Sunday, me and my 32 other cousins are at her house in New York. And each and every single one of us promised to vote for you in this next election. So, I know who you are in the industry. And we did. It's not enough tonight. You show up tonight, and this matters. Let's remember this, and from here, let's choose action each and every day. It's the key to victory and the antidote to despair. And if you do that, we will win. Thank you all for coming out. Thank you all for coming. Thank you. I'll send you those notes. Okay. And I got, but it was your shoulder, his shoulder and your shoulder. It's something better than nothing. At least I tried.
My card. You want a ball? No, that's like as many as you like. Long as you like.
I wish I could. No problem. Expert. We'll figure out bacon. Thank you. That's what we need.
That's all. I'll take it. Got it. You were here shooting up. Yes. Okay, I'm gonna jump in.